Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all for completing this poll. All right, so let's go into make sure I'm still logged in. Okay, so you'll see here, you'll see here in ICE, there's an integrations tab. This is under the work centers, TrustSec. And ICE now has these detailed workflows that talk about how to actually deploy the different features. So what has been already done on this setup, which is a standalone ICE setup, is I've enabled SXP service, um, and that that would be could be used for the firewall integration. Um, PX Grid specifically is for the interconnection with or the integration with ACI. So I've I've enabled that, and those are the two requirements. And then let me go to integration. So excuse me, there is detailed here how to do the steps. So we'll just follow those here. So these are the different integrations that ICE has. We're going to be doing the ACI integration. And we just put in the IP address and the name for APIC, as well as the credentials. You can select if you want to validate, if you do have a different, validate the ACI cert. And if you do have a different login domain, you can do that there. So you'll see that ICE now has learned the cluster IP addresses and has connected to it. And the next step is to determine the naming convention. So by default, the tenant and the endpoint group are part of the naming convention for the SGT. So we have a certain EPG or ESG that's in our ACI environment. And then what we're selecting here is what we want to append, or if we want to use any specific ACI attributes or append any specific ACI attributes here. So we can select tenant, VRF, application profile, or EPG. So I'll do tenant, VRF, and EPG. So you'll see um, the different EPGs and ESGs that have been learned from APIC. So I'll select some of these here. And if I'm pulling in the EPGs or ESGs and then having it renamed and bringing them into ICE, then that would indicate that I'm going to be doing the enforcement in ICE. If I wanted to do the enforcement on the data center, I would do the opposite, which I'll share. So let's select those. And you'll see based on the naming convention that I had defined that we do have the VRF and the tenant there with the EPG. This is all done. So I'll go through the rules in a little bit, but you can see that it is there, and I'm not sure why it's showing it's disconnected. Let me see. It's on this side. So you'll see now this is a new screen for 6.1.2. We have the ICE integration here. You can see that topic EPG was created from, this is our ICE server. We're publishing and listening via that PX Grid connection. And there is an active endpoint in our ACI environment that has this EPG um, as in as it and is in this VRF. So let's look at that information there. So um, you'll see here we've got an EPG here, an external EPG. Now this is where we'll learn the SGTs from after that connection. And when we pull in those SGTs, then that is indicating that we're, implementing the policy on this side. So what we can do is then create the rules. So you'll see here, this is our internal SXP. We only have this ACI SGT domain, but we were to connect multiple servers, multiple ACIs. We can create multiple domains, and we can't even create multiple domains in this case, which is another form of kind of segmenting them out. So if we were to create um, an outbound, create an outbound rule to ACI, and we're leveraging this connection here, and we're assigning it a specific L3 out. And we can do select from this SGT domain, and maybe let's do, so this is a SGT from the campus environment. So we'll be sending this SGT to APIC, so APIC can do the enforcement with this outbound rule. So you'll see here, now we have an external EPG that is ICE employees. So that's what we had just pulled in from creating this outbound rule here. And you can do your intra external EPG isolation. You can then implement your contracts here. And then let's see. And so what you guys may have seen in or may remember from the presentation, so we're able to configure this either on the ingress or the egress. We support both um, in 6.1.2. So you can specify this here. By default, though, if you're pulling in the SGTs and pulling in the contract for those SGTs in your ACI data center, then it's going to be done on the ingress. So you don't need to actually define that. And I think that's all we have with the demo. I don't know if there's any questions that anyone has. I'll go back to, I've got some additional slides. Second. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go through some of the requirements or the limitations. So as I mentioned, this is available on ICE version 3.4. Patch 1 is required for the actual production version as it was just released as beta with ICE 3.4. We do need ACI 6.1 at the minimum, but we did add that new integration screen in 6.1.2, and that's when the recommended release. You can implement this with purely having ICE and a campus environment and not having an SD access environment, but both are supported since we're leveraging ICE as the context hub. And then for day one configurations, you'll enable the PX Grid and SXP services. You'll need to have DNS resolution for APIC and ICE. You'll create your tenants, or you may already have your tenant and VRF, the EPGs and or ESGs defined, as well as your L3 out. For EPGs and ESGs, how ICE uses them or treats them is the same. So an EPG would be assigned an SGT just as an ESG would be assigned an SGT. So there's no difference in how they're treated or enforced in a ICE or the campus environment. And then we have our supported scale numbers. With the way that we're implementing it today, that is different than the previous implementations of ICE and ACI. We're able to have a higher scale limit. So that's one of the benefits to this PX Grid implementation for this integration. And then 6.1.1, as mentioned, this was a beta, so there are some limitations. You have to enforce the VRF in the egress direction, as I had just shared previous. 6.1.2, this isn't necessary. Um, and you'll need to have different SGTs if you're leveraging multiple ICE. And then we also had, with 6.1.2, we allowed shared services or shared L3 out support. So the APIC will program the SGT bindings, the prefixes for the classification only on the border leaf egress direction behavior. And then this is what the new screen is that we had looked at for 6.1.3. And that finalizes my presentation. Got a few minutes left. I don't know if there's any open questions or any comments.
It does not seem that we have anything outstanding, Larissa.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I will send out the slides. There's a detailed workflow in the slides, so you can see how to implement this, as well as references in that slide deck. This is something that you'll see more of, and you'll hear more of as the common policy architecture grows more and implements or includes many more domains. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.